say we take a song. Maybe I'll use this song throughout as an example and treat it in different ways. But we all know this song. I like New York in June. How about you? Well, say a person who wants to learn to improvise on this framework, and they've heard the top flight pianist handle this thing, so they hear them play it something like this, for instance, maybe. Get an approximation of that, and rather than be satisfied with saying, I'll work simply with the framework and honestly and really, and say, play something simple like. Try to approximate the other thing, but in a vague way, something like maybe. They're trying to do the thing in a way which is so general that they can't possibly build on that. If they build on that, they're building on top of confusion and vagueness, and they can't possibly progress.
I have to protect myself here.
Yeah.
Because you're hitting home. Yeah. This is my worst fault, is overplaying. But on the other hand, to thousands of musicians, such as myself, we have to overplay, I think, because we don't have time to even time to get to the keyboard to sustain the rudimentary thing.
But the thing is, the point is, what are you satisfied with? In other words, it's better to do something simple, which is real, and it doesn't have to be. It can still be satisfactory, but it's something you can build on because you know what you're doing. Simple enough, but it's all within the absolute framework of what you're doing. Mm-hmm. Whereas if you try to approximate something which is very advanced and don't know what you're doing, mm-hmm. then you can't build on it. That's the only point I'm making, really.
But again, I don't think you can just eliminate it, because we find a certain excitement about this. You know, it's an enjoyment. It's a certain kind of enjoyment, and I wouldn't stop playing.
Oh, I think you could. Yeah, right. You could be too cautious. You can be cautious to the point where you never discover anything. I think you have to have a certain adventurous spirit. But let's say over a long period of time, you have to be aware of what is really accurate and what is not.
Right.
And when you're adventurous, you have to know when you succeed and when you don't succeed. That's all.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Well, now, those of you who know not a great deal, let's say, about jazz, who grew up on classical music or folk music or rock and roll or popular dance music or whatever, you may possibly have some difficulty appreciating what a musician like Bill Evans is up to. You may even ask, and I think you should ask, why is what he does so much more truly art than what Trini Lopez or the Beach Boys or somebody do? Perhaps a comparison will help to make it clear. Take something you're familiar with, I'm sure, mathematics. You know there is this increasing sophistication from simple arithmetic, 1 and 1 is 2 sort of thing. You go up through first counting and then addition and subtraction and multiplication and division up through algebra, geometry, trigonometry, calculus, and so forth. That, I think, tells you something about Bill's music. It's just much more sophisticated. There's a great deal more to it. It's not simple rock and roll harmonics or folk harmonics by a long shot. And I think Bill will make this additionally clear to you as he moves toward the piano now.
Maybe we could demonstrate this. Could I use you as an instrument for teaching, maybe?
Love it.
This is a privilege as a teacher. I'm going to tell you exactly what to do, Bill. I hope you won't mind.
I'll try to do it.
Certainly the term jazz is a nebulous term, and if we assume now that we do know nothing about jazz. Bill, would you play just a simple melody of Star Eyes, no harmonics, nothing but the simple melody. Stop. Well, let's call that letter A, because that was 8 measures. We're going to repeat the same 8 measures, and we'll call this letter A again. Only this time, Bill, put the basic harmonies in this tune to that melody. Stop again. Now we have 8 measures and 8 measures. A, A. And now we come to what the musician usually terms the bridge, or we'll call this letter B, which is a different section, 8 measures long. Now play letter B, Bill, or the bridge. Stop again. Now we have A, B. And now we go back to the first 8 measures, and we call that A again. It's a repeat on the first 8 measures, so let's now play 8 measures more. That concludes the tune, Star Eyes. Now we have A, B, A. Now, of course, Bill, right there in this particular tune, even though you were playing it very simply by your terms, I know, nevertheless, you had harmonies going, which were certainly harmonies in depth and complicated. Being a pianist, I know that harmonically there was something going on that was not as it was written, which immediately is an approach you use to harmonics. Could we take just the first 2 measures, or the very first phrase of the tune, play just the melody, Bill, the first few notes. All right, just play that much again, and just put the very simple chord underneath it as it was written. Play it again, simply, just like that. Just... All right, I think here we get to jazz, because are we content to play this tune with this harmonic structure over and over again, maybe 100 times, maybe 1,000 times in our lives, and play it exactly like that? Now, Bill, play it again, only put your own harmonies underneath it. Yeah, there's a vast difference here between the harmonies that you're using and the harmonies that were originally written in the tune. Now let's get to the strongest creative element in jazz, which is improvisation. Now, even though the harmonies are beautiful, Bill, that you're using, and they're certainly beautiful, but nevertheless, these harmonies would even become, shall we say, static, or you wouldn't play it this way each time, 100 times or 1,000 times. The melody would be on top. So possibly, since you've deviated and created your own harmonics underneath the melody, now we can go ahead and create something on top of the melody itself, getting into the second element of music, melody. So now we could change the melody as we've changed the harmony. So how about improvising, taking the same first 8 measures, letter A, and improvise on that melody, and do us a favor, all of us, by returning to the melody every so often so we know where you are, or to identify the melody. think here we've covered already the three elements of music: rhythm, harmony, and melody. And I think it's noteworthy to note that the jazz musician has changed every element. First of all, you changed the rhythm. You've improvised on the melody. It was basically there all the time. But of course, you superimposed your own melody on top of it. And we've changed the harmonies. So possibly you could discuss it from your point of view, Bill.
Yeah.
From the artist's point of view. And
Well, let's go back to...
You all right?
Go back to it. I see the thing.
Of course, jazz works within a framework, but nevertheless, it has afforded a great amount of freedom to the musician. Mozart, of course, loved to improvise because it was free, and Bach, and I feel this is a strong element in jazz. Is its freedom, this spontaneous creativity.
Well, I think, for one thing, it's very important to remember that no matter how far I might diverge or find freedom in this format, that it only is free insofar as it has reference to the strictness of the original form. And that's what gives it its strength. In other words, there is no freedom without being in reference to something. Now, if you take this form in this strict form, and you find some way to get away from it, and that gives it a meaning. So,
in other words, you're saying before you can depart from something, there has to be something existing there.
There has to be something existing there, and if the person hears the way the player is playing, in other words, when I'm playing everything I play against the strict squareness of the original form, see.
Now, Bill's own development as an artist dramatizes the importance of knowing the rules. He began to play at the age of 6, and his early training was legitimate, classical, Sears Roebuck. He grew up in the town of Plainfield, New Jersey. Spent a lot of his early years there anyway. And as a youngster, he knew little or nothing of jazz influences until in his teens he began to play dance music using mostly, I guess, just the old stock arrangements. And only gradually, as he will tell you himself in a few minutes in this film, only gradually did he learn to add a personal contribution to what was written on paper.